This is absolutely hilarious. Am I the only person that thinks this is hilarious? I'm trying to... Is this the only time we've ever seen a situation like this happen? Where a player has been suspended, not for a game, for a half. She's suspended for a half. I don't think I've ever seen anything like it. She is suspended for a half a basketball game.
Angel Reese's actions have now reached a breaking point in the Chicago Sky locker room, surpassing even her own teammates' tolerance. The franchise has been forced to take harsh measures against their alleged star player as a result of an extraordinary meltdown that began as irritation over the poor season.
According to the report, Reese said she doesn't believe her teammates Rachel Banham or Haley Van Lith are capable of leading a playoff team. Guard Ariel Atkins is another player on the Sky's roster with WNBA championship experience. Tyler Marsh said, "We are aware of it." What Angel Reese said, "We're addressing it in-house as currently speaking. That's where we'll stay right now."
Now, the lady who once declared herself Caitlin Clark's equal serves as a warning about what happens when ego triumphs over team dynamics and public declarations damage personal relationships.
Did tell Front Office Sports the entire team has seen Reese's comments and they're basically unhappy with the direct attacks. They are even planning a team meeting to talk about it. We'll read you some of the excerpts, which does kind of not make her team look good. One of which say, "We can't rely on Courtney," that's Courtney Vandersloot, "to come back at the age that she's at. I know she'll be a great asset for us, but we can't rely on that. We need someone probably a little younger with some experience, somebody who's been playing the game and is willing to compete for a championship and has done it before."
There is more to Angel Reese's most recent scandal than just his basketball skills. It's about leadership, character, and the fundamental deference that teammates should have to one another. Ree publicly criticized the team in such a way that her own organization felt obliged to suspend her for her actions, which can only be defined as a stunning act of self-sabotage. However, this suspension was only the start of a full-scale organizational uprising that has left Reese's future in Chicago in jeopardy.
Also, you guys remember the story. Angel Reese calling out her teammates, calling out the front office. You're a bum, you're a bum, you're a bum. You're a bum. Yeah, you ladies won't do it for me. Coach Marsh, can you please coach harder? Yeah, Angel Reese. 48 hours later, already backtracking on those statements, already moonwalking like Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson, he'd probably be proud how quickly Angel Reese is moonwalking from the comments she made. And I have an exclusive.
Ree's declaration to the Chicago Tribune that Chicago needs great players and "we didn't settle for the same this year" was the tipping point. To her comrades, such statements were the ultimate betrayal, but to others, they might have seemed like competitive fire. A public admission that none of them were worthy of sharing her court.
Some of the other stuff that she said was also pretty bad. Like, "I'm not settling for the same we did this year. We have to get good players. We have to get great players. That's a non-negotiable for me. I am willing and wanting to play with the best. And however I can help to get the best here, that's what I'm going to do this offseason. So it's going to be very, very important this offseason to make sure that we attract the best of the best because we can't settle for what we have this year." So her saying we can't settle for what we have this year, that is basically like a slap in the face to Becca Allen. That is a slap in the face to Rachel Banham. That is a slap in the face to Ariel Atkins.
Veteran guard Rachel Banham, who has dedicated her life to this team, felt caught off guard by Reese's interview. Ariel Atkins, who had stood behind Ree through all of the scandal, eventually had enough.
Chicago Sky values safety, respect, and well-being of every player. We're committed to accountability so our players can stay focused on playing basketball. Because of statements made by Angel Reese during league-mandated media, I've never seen this before, where she is getting suspended for a half. Not a game. Not a game. One half. One half she is getting suspended for. That is absolutely hilarious.
Subscribe if you're enjoying it. The assertion regarding roster construction made by the best players wasn't merely a generalization. It was an outright assault on teammates who had fought with her during one of the most trying seasons in the team's history. In particular, Rhee asked if Hailey Van Lith or Rachel Bannum was more equipped to manage a postseason team. She fired 36-year-old Courtney Vanderloot, stating that the team needed someone with some experience who was maybe a little younger because they couldn't rely on someone at her age. Private team sessions were not used for these strategic conversations. Under the pretext of basketball analysis, these were public killings.
To be here for the rest of my career, but if things don't pan out, obviously I might have to move in a different direction and do what's best for me. And listen, I totally get that, because if you are somebody with a lot of star power, you don't want your career just like rotting away in a place, especially the Sky. The GM, Jeff Pagliocca, he absolutely sold the Sky's future. He traded away draft picks for this like win now mentality. And who he drafted? Now, I don't want to speak bad about Hailey Van Lith, but she has not had a mentor to actually mentor her to be any proper type of point guard. So she's kind of been flying in the dark. She hasn't exactly proven her worth in the dark.
Reese's public remarks were particularly devastating not only for what she said, but also for the way she said it. Rhee made the decision to destroy the very individuals who had stood by her side through thick and thin, whereas Caitlin Clark spent her debut season overcoming hard play, angry fans, and severe scrutiny while pushing her teammates and organization to new heights. There is no greater striking contrast. While Rhee threw her teammates under the bus at the first hint of organizational trouble, Clark lifted everyone around her throughout hardship.
This is the reason I have spent the last few years referring to the WNBA as a dump. This is the reason I don't feel bad when I refer to the WNBA as a toxic turd. Not only have they damn near ruined their opportunity with Caitlin Clark, the dump diver they chose to support, the pretend basketball player they have spent the last 2 years begging you to support. They desperately want her to be accepted. They are desperate to make her a star. Not only has she been rejected by normal people, Angel Reese is now being rejected and potentially kicked off of her own team.
Her colleague's response was brutal and quick. The whole Sky team had witnessed Reese's remarks and was offended by the blatant assaults, according to several league sources. A players-only meeting was convened right away to address the harm she had done to the team's morale, not to cheer on their alleged hero. One of Reese's most outspoken supporters throughout her career, Ariel Atkins, spoke directly to Rhee during this discussion and made it plain that her actions were unacceptable. The extent of the harm inflicted by Reese's remarks was made clear by Rachel Bannum's response to the situation. "I don't really care, I think. I'm so over all of this," she said to the Chicago Sun-Times. "It would have affected me more when I was younger, but now that I'm older, I don't give a damn." There was more to Bannum's resignation than basketball. It was about realizing that she had been publicly deemed inadequate by someone she had played with and encouraged. The seasoned guard acknowledged that the interview caught her off stride, emphasizing how Rhee had unexpectedly ambushed her own teammates.
Angel Reese, earlier in the week, in an interview, threw her Chicago Sky teammates under a bus and then ran the bus over them and then backed up the bus, bouncing over them again, and then proceeded to drive over them one more good time just to be sure that their carcasses were no longer twitching. It was one of the most me, selfish ass interviews I've ever heard from any athlete, trashing her very own team.
Meanwhile, the organization's decision to suspend their top player was endorsed by Ariel Atkins, who had previously defended Rhee against criticism. Ownership handled it how they see fit, she made clear to the Sun-Times. "They have full support from our team." As a clear indication of how thoroughly Rhee had alienated even her staunchest fans in the locker room, Atkins said she hadn't spoken to Rhee since the team meeting. The harshness of the Chicago Sky's response was unheard of. Although Reese's first half-game ban might have looked insignificant, sources inside the company disclosed that it was only the start of disciplinary process that could eventually result in his complete removal from the team. In a statement, the team reaffirmed their dedication to accountability and making sure that players can maintain their concentration while playing basketball. an obvious sign that the organization could no longer afford to be distracted by Reese's turmoil.
Getting suspended for a first half? What is this, college football? I've seen in college where people will get suspended for a half. Not in the pros. People getting suspended for a half game in the pros. Just suspend her for the whole game. Y'all don't have nothing to lose. Y'all don't have nothing to lose. If you're going to suspend her, just suspend her for another game. It is what it is. You know what I mean? Suspend her for a half is kind of weird. But yeah, this is crazy. This is crazy.
Coach Tyler Marsh, who had been taken aback by Reese's public remarks, has stated that the suspension was a top-down organizational decision. It is clear how seriously team management regarded the harm to team chemistry when they felt obliged to penalize their top rebounder and alleged franchise cornerstone. It's obvious that your time with the company is running out when your own coaching staff and front office publicly chastise you. Just the outward sign of a far deeper organizational rethink was the suspension. According to Elizabeth Williams, a veteran member of the team, Ree obviously doesn't want to disrespect us, but even she acknowledged that the comments represented a failure in leadership and communication. Williams attempted to provide a positive interpretation of the incident. The extent to which Reese had lost control of the narrative is demonstrated by the fact that even her own teammates felt obliged to do damage control in the media. The difference in how other elite athletes deal with hardship is what makes this circumstance especially harmful for Ree. During her debut season, Caitlin Clark was criticized, but she let her play speak for itself and continuously acknowledged the efforts of her teammates. She realized that being a leader meant uplifting people rather than bringing them down for one's own benefit. Clark's strategy fostered respect and loyalty, whereas Reese's strategy has caused animosity and division that might not be healing. Reese's remarks couldn't have come at a worse moment.
See, we don't have many players nowadays that know how to go through that building phase and know how to stick through in a hard time and come out, when it's sunny outside. Everybody just want to just hop to where it's already a finished product and then just add their little spin to it. Because hypothetically, let's say right now, yeah, she can go hop on Minnesota and win a ring, but is that fulfilling? Like, she can go hop on Las Vegas Aces right now and help them, get there. And if she win a ring with them, but is that fulfilling? Because now it's just like you just ring chasing, which everybody should want to win a ring. But it's like, come on, at what cost? Like, winning a ring is the...
Instead of publicly blaming her for her part in the team's problems, which included leading the league in turnovers despite missing a lot of time, the team needed unity and leadership because the Sky were already out of the running for the playoffs and had a miserable 10-30 record. Reese decided to portray herself as the victim of organizational incompetence and place the blame on everyone in her vicinity. The extent of the dysfunction Reese has caused within the company has become clear in the wake of her remarks. It is a sad indictment of the poisonous atmosphere that Reese's actions have created when veterans like Rachel Bannum publicly declare they are over all of this. Professional basketball players who have devoted their lives to the sport are being subjected to needless drama because their teammate lacks the maturity or grace to deal with hardship. There is no greater contrast between Reese's public remarks and Caitlin Clark's style of team leadership. Ree threw everyone under the bus while denying any responsibility, but Clark constantly gave her teammates credit and accepted responsibility for team failures. Clark's strategy created a culture of championships. It might take years to heal the division and animosity caused by Reese's strategy.
I don't care how great you are. I don't care how talented you are. If you're constantly causing problems, if you can't get along with your colleagues, there always comes a point when the bullshit outweighs the talent. Organizations will only tolerate so much. Everyone has a breaking point. You can't be a pain in the ass. You can't ostracize your teammates while being a huge embarrassing failure. You can't be a problem when you can't win a damn game.
The fact that Reese's teammates soon turned against her is the most striking feature of this whole incident. These are players who had been by her side in every prior dispute, shielded her from criticism, and tried to establish a rapport with someone who obviously didn't appreciate what they had to offer. It is evident how thoroughly Ree had betrayed the trust and respect that bind teams together that veterans like Ariel Atkins and Rachel Bam felt obliged to voice their annoyance in public. Ree's attempt at apology simply made matters worse. She said that her harmful remarks were misunderstood and taken out of context, rather than accepting full responsibility for them. traditional deflection techniques that demonstrated her continued inability to comprehend the seriousness of her actions. Context and interpretation did not bother her colleagues. They were unhappy that someone they had backed had publicly called them out and threatened to quit if the organization didn't bring in stronger players to replace them. Reese's destiny in Chicago has probably been determined by the aftermath from this scandal. It's obvious that the relationship is irreparable when your teammates openly support your suspension and acknowledge that they're upset about your actions. The Sky organization, which is already facing many difficulties, cannot afford to keep a player who actively destroys team spirit and fosters a losing mentality through her behavior on and off the court.
I don't think I'm frustrated. I probably am frustrated myself right now. I think the language is taken out of context, and I really didn't intentionally mean to put down my teammates because they've been through this with me throughout the whole year. They've busted their ass just how I busted my ass. They showed up for me through thick and thin and in the locker room when nobody could see anything. So I would apologize to my teammates, which I already have, about the article and how it was misconstrued, about what was said. And I just have to be better with my language because I know it's not the message, it's the messenger, and understanding what I say can be taken any kind of way. So I just have to really be better and grow from this.
Beyond just poor basketball skills, this issue is a total failure of character and leadership. Reese decided to disparage her colleagues while presenting herself as the answer to issues she contributed to, but Caitlin Clark, who experienced comparable hardship during her rookie season, replied by uplifting everyone around her. The trust and respect required for professional sports teams to operate have completely collapsed as a result. The Chicago Sky's choice to penalize Ree makes a strong statement about the organization's principles and appropriate conduct. Players who publicly disparage their colleagues while denying responsibility for their own roles in team failures have no place in a league where team cohesion and respect are critical to success. Regardless of Reese's individual stats or purported star power, her actions have crossed a threshold that even a failing organization cannot ignore.
I think the Chicago Bravado are realizing that Angel Reese is not worth the trouble. This is just the beginning. I think this is step one of the process, the first stage of divorce. I think the Chicago Bravado are preparing to trade the face of failure.
It's becoming evident that Angel Reese's time in Chicago is coming to an end as this scandal continues to develop. Not because of how well she played basketball, but rather because she was a total failure as a leader and teammate. In addition to disparaging the organization, her public remarks ruined the trust and relationships that are necessary for any team to flourish. Regardless of skill or potential, Sky's answer, which was backed by her teammates, demonstrates that some boundaries cannot be broken.